But I found that through Christ, that's where the true freedom and the true liberty is.
And every one of us came here with something we can do. And my only hope is just to maximize it.
Holy are the peacemakers. I mean, that gives it a whole new perspective.
You know, this is the way to progress on the covenant path.
Hello and welcome to Latter-day Profiles. I'm Brian Howard. We're here at the LDS Motion Picture Studio in Provo, Utah, and joining me today is Marshall and Michelle Moore. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. They are the co-directors and owners of ZIONS Indian Film Fest. If you don't recognize that, it's formerly the LDS Film Festival, and we talk about the change in name. You took over, I believe we're talking about in 2022 was the first year you fully took over, announced it the year before. So as we're recording this, the film festival is coming up. And as I was talking to Michelle earlier, she had days and hours counted down. So it's coming right up. It's an exciting time.
She's got a timer.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your backgrounds. Michelle, let's start with you. Your background is in PR, and you've been connected with the film industry. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah.
I think right now you're president of your own PR group, right?
That, and I also work for Living Scriptures. We have a platform called Living Cinema, so I'm the director over that, run a film festival, and I love everything film. But my background really started in publishing, so I did a lot of indie self-published authors. I also was the senior publicist at Deseret Book for a couple of years, and that's where I really honed in just opportunities and connections and meeting people in the media so that we could give just great content, right? And finding that story and that niche that would resonate with audiences. And then when I met this amazing man, we met in,
2011.
Yeah, 2011.
Yeah.
We met. He was the director of the Utah Film Commission, and again, I was just in publishing and started meeting a lot of local filmmakers, and there really wasn't anybody that was servicing on a PR and a marketing, brand level locally. And so I was able to just kind of explain what I do, and instead of finding book reviewers, I was finding movie critics, and instead of pitching release dates, I was pitching theatrical releases. So it really just transitioned naturally. I've now done about 39 films over the course of 10 years, and just so grateful for those relationships that I've made with the filmmakers, the actors, producers, and distributors. And it's just it's been fun because about here in Utah, and I'm finding that all over the place, it's a film family, right? Like it's not just a temp job or something. Like you really become like a family. And so it was nice for me to be able to work with people that Marshall has worked with for decades, because he's been in this industry for a long time, and just to be able to get to know them on a personal and community base too.
I'm curious, before I get to Marshall's background, when we talk about doing PR and publicizing for movies and such, it's like, okay, what does that mean? Because we see a movie poster, is that it? Is it TV commercials? What goes into it?
Yeah, there's so much, and I love working on a team of people also. But you're right, like the trailer, the key art, the behind the scenes, little snippets and vignettes that you can release, and then gearing up for that big opening weekend. I mean, independent films, LDS, or even faith-based films, they live and die on that opening weekend because it is a business. And so theaters are looking at, what is performing. And so our focus as a marketing and publicity team is that we're trying to hit all the talking points, all the reasons why you should see that film, but also driving it for a specific time. And then, if the filmmaker did their job and I did my job, there's word of mouth, and then there's, it stays in the theater a little bit longer too.
And you're getting them on TV, you're putting them on the radio, all building up to that release.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I think involves creating a lot of relationships, right? I would assume, right? Because when you call, you want them to actually get the people on the TV show.
Right.
And that kind of
that's that I would say is one of my gifts, and one of the things that I like to do most is I'm most interested in that relationship with that producer or that host or writer. Like I'm interested in really knowing who they are and how I can be of service to them. Like what type of story works best for your audience, and find that.
That's fascinating. Well, Marshall, you've been involved with film for a long time. I was looking at
Yeah.
your background, career path. You worked on Touched by an Angel,
Yeah.
manager of location manager for 20 years on the Utah Film Commission, and also the director of the Utah Film Commission, and currently VP of Operations and Marketing at the Utah Film Studios in Park City.
Yes.
Right. Lots of stuff
Yeah.
going on. So tell us a little bit about your career path. What got you, obviously you're passionate about film. What got you interested?
Well, I call it my accidental career. And a lot of people have that, where you don't know exactly what you're going to do, then one day it hits.
Yep.
And mine happened. My parents dabbled in the film industry. My stepfather was a screenwriter for a television series in the 1970s. My mom was an aspiring actress. So I was always around in that environment, and she ended up working on a number of different lots in Los Angeles, like MGM and Paramount. And she'd bring me to these lots, and I'd run around, the studios watching. She'd introduce me to people I didn't know who they were then, but now I'm like, oh my gosh. She worked for Sam Peckinpah. I don't know if you know him, old big time Western director. So all those things, I kind of was on the periphery of all that. And when I went to college, I had no intention really to work in the film industry. I was thinking it could be fun, but I want to be a psychologist. That's what I really wanted to do. But then one day it hit. My stepfather had written a script 10 years earlier. He had delivered this script to Katharine Hepburn, and because he wrote it for her, there was no way he could get it to her. And finally, this is a famous story in Hollywood. You can look it up. He literally took the script and threw it over her back fence. And she got it, read it, contacted him, and then a number of years later, a company called Canon Films picked it up and bought it and made it in New York City, and that was my very first job. I left college to go work as a production assistant in New York City in 1983 on my stepdad's script. So I was there for like 4 months. I came back. Turned out that this Canon Films had an office on the West Coast too. They were New York, Los Angeles. Sure. So they put me to work in their corporate office where I was cataloging their music library, and then they say, hey, we're making this movie called Breakin'. It was a breakdance movie from 1984, and we're going to send you out on set, and you're going to work as a set PA for the assistant directors. So that was my first experience where I, charged the walkie-talkies every day and wrangled the extras and all that, and then it just kind of took off from there. But during that first run with Breakin', I was in the production office, and the location manager got fired.
Oh.
They replaced him with the guy in the wardrobe department who was very savvy to Los Angeles area. But he said he needed an assistant. And he looked around the PA pool. He said, who of you can take pictures? And I said, I can, and I have a camera in my car. It was in my trunk. And he goes, here, go to these addresses, take pictures for me, and bring them back. And that's what started my career as an assistant location manager, then as a location manager.
Yeah, tell us about, location manager. It sounds simple enough, but it's actually got a lot of parts to it, I'm sure. What does a location manager do?
Creative and logistics, really. So in the beginning, you work with the creative team. You're the first one hired. Read the script, break it down, meet with the director, meet with the production designer, and then you determine, what's going to be built on a stage like this, or what's going to be shot on location. Once we figure that out, then we meet about, okay, what kind of house is it? What kind of river is it? What kind of lake is it? Cabin, whatever. And then I spend a few weeks on my own trying to figure it out. And then it just becomes a parade of taking the director, the production designer, producer to visit all these locations until you narrow it down to your final choices. You usually have 2 or 3 options for one location that you end up seeing in the finished product. So then, once that's over with, your hat changes, comes off as creative. Now all of a sudden you're logistics. And now you're putting together things like, where's everybody going to park every day? Where does everybody eat lunch? Where are the bathrooms? Where's security, permits, contracts with the property owners? And being in front of the company all the time so that when they arrive every day, when 150, 200 people arrive every day, they have a place to park, and you're all legal, and so that's what it is. It's part creative, part logistics, and putting those two together is really what a location manager does.
And you worked for quite a while on Touched by an Angel, right? And that was shot here in Utah, is that correct?
Right, yeah. Shot about 215 episodes of Touched by an Angel between 2004 let's see, 1994 and 2003, I worked on 180 or so of those episodes as the location manager and supervising location manager. Got so big towards the end, we had a department of like 8 people.
Wow.
Because there was no standing sets. You know, typical
Right.
series, you have a set that's there and you go back to that all the time. Touched by an Angel is a new location, new place every week.
Wow.
And we shot 22 episodes a season.
Yikes.
You know, hour-long TV. So yeah, that was a really good run. Great for the state of Utah, too. You know, over $200 million pumped into the economy.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Well,
Lots of jobs.
I was listening to a podcast that you did, and I thought it was kind of funny. You know, you took a job now with the Utah Film Commission, and as you walked in, no craft service. What a downer.
You've heard that story, yeah. That's a great story. So, you want me to share it?
Yeah, you bet.
So, my whole life I've worked in the film industry, right? And every day you show up, there's always food, right? There's snacks, and then you get a catered lunch. And this is the only job I knew. I mean, I worked at a grocery store in college, you know, but for 20 years I've been showing up and food was ready for me. Pre-production, they had a snack room. Take what you want. So my first day working for the state of Utah, I'm looking for the free food. I'm like, I go into the break room and there's machines and you got to pay, you know, and all these people are having brown bags and lunch. And I'm like, so then what happened was I went to my coworkers and I said, hey, what's going on with the food? And I told them, I'm like, I'm so used to it. I wasn't even prepared to bring a lunch today. So the next day I show up to work and they had a little paper plate for me with like a little tiny Three Musketeers bar. They were like weaning me off of the craft service, you know, some peanuts and and a drink, and they got that together for me. And then they said, no, you gotta bring your own food here, pay for your own lunch.
Do it on your own.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, definitely a long career. Let's talk about the film festival. How did you get interested in taking on the film festival, which was been going on, I think, 2001, is that right? Was it Christian
Yeah, it
Visa who
started in
started
2000,
it?
yeah, with Christian. And I had worked with Kels Goodman, who's the previous owner, and I ran the PR and marketing for him for a couple of years. And so I got a little taste of what it was like, right? The promotion of it and just kind of the ins and outs. One of the skill sets that Marshall and I don't have is IT, and you talk to me about DCPs and all these different files and ratios, and I'm just like, great. So that's one thing, that we have an amazing programmer. Kels helped us the first year when we took over, but we have Bradley Olson that's doing it this year. But we got involved really early on. We were attenders, like we would attend the Utah Film Commission and the film studio have always been sponsors of the LDS Film Festival, now ZIONS Indie Film Fest. So it was a natural fit. And I remember Kels and I would have the conversation, and I would sneak it into Marshall here and there, and he just was, no, we can't do that. We're so busy. At the time, our 2 youngest girls were still at home. They're heavily involved in athletics and softball. And he was right. Like, our bandwidth was already just maxed out. But I just kept feeling these promptings, and I just knew that this was something that we needed to do, that we and Kels was ready to move from it. Like, that was the biggest thing. He wanted to just be, not just be, because it's amazing, but he wanted to be a filmmaker again. He did not want to run the logistics and the promotion and the branding of the festival. He wanted to be part of the festival. He wanted to submit films to the festival. And we saw that in him. He's an amazing creative individual. And so I think, that was, once Marshall saw that Kels, that was truly what his heart desired, that he truly wanted to walk away, and release it to someone that would continue the legacy. And that was one of our big things, is we didn't want to come in and just shake the snow globe of a festival and make it totally different than what, people had beloved. Like, this is a beloved film festival. Lots and lots of filmmakers started as student films, in this festival. And so, we talked about, like, what does it look like with us? And I think with Marshall's operation experience, all the things he just explained, being a location manager, and with my marketing and PR experience, it was a good marriage, and it was a good passing of the baton, to say.
So you did made a change to the name. Tell us a little bit about the thought behind the change of the name.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing we did was assemble a board of directors. And they were all industry-related people from different parts of the industry.
Right.
And then we sent out a a poll to those who have had films in the film festival before, just to get some feedback. Do you think we should change the name? Overwhelmingly, they said yes, only because we were just in this, we weren't able to expand as much as we would like to under that name. It was successful to that point, but then we found out that filmmakers were not submitting to the festival because they thought that it had to be an LDS, you had to be an LDS filmmaker, had to be an LDS film, a gospel topic. No, it just had to be, viewable for families, Faith-based was okay, but it didn't even have to be that. But that message wasn't clear under that title. Mm-hmm. So the number one priority for our newly formed board was you have to change the name. And so we stewed on it a little bit, made a list of all these names. And when we looked up the word Zion, we saw that one of the definitions is gathering place. Mm-hmm. And so it was so funny the other day. Actually, in the last couple of weeks, a lot of people said to me, "You mean I got to come down to southern Utah to see your festival? Is it in Zion National Park?" They have this tendency to think of Zion as a geographical area, right? Yeah. Red Rock and all that, which is fine. But then when you explain, Zion is wherever like-minded people are, people that have the same thoughts, ideas. So we said, this is a gathering place. So Zion is appropriate because people that are involved with film, have made films, are coming together, gathering and then celebrating those films and connecting with each other. And we saw that really as the Zion experience.
Yeah.
Zion, yes. The gathering of the pure in heart filmmakers, right?
Right. And the audiences, that was the next goal that we wanted, is we wanted to bridge that gap between, bringing great content. So with the filmmaker and the audience is bridging that gap and giving the opportunity for their film to be seen on a big screen. It's a very immersive film festival. We have Q&As afterwards. And I'm so excited. So switching the year, we've doubled our programming. So we have over 83 films that are programmed for this year. And the amount of submissions have increased. There's people that have never submitted to our film festival, from all over the world. A lot of filmmakers also were coming into Utah, which hasn't been the case. We've had a half a dozen or so in past years, but we've got almost 20, 25 filmmakers that are coming in to be part of ZIF. Yeah.
That's impressive. Yeah. What is, so putting on a film festival, obviously there's a lot that goes into it, right? Logistically and getting that many films. What's the criteria you have when someone submits a film? What's the board looking for to say this is the right kind of film for our festival?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we did keep that the same as the LDS Film Festival's criteria. So we want it to be, PG, PG-13, rating as far as, you can take your family to see this. I'd also say that one of the questions we ask our judges is, did this film inspire you? And so that's, we are looking for those things that bring entertainment and that uplift your spirit and cause you to pause and think and, how can I become a better person? How can I be a light unto other people? And I think that film is a beautiful platform to be able to be expressive and to be able to connect with people. And I think that's, that's what we're shooting for. As far as the process, there's all film festivals use, it's called Film Freeway. But we have screeners. We have different people that will just screen those films to make sure that they meet that criteria. Marshall and I can say, we had over almost 200 submissions, and we did watch all of those submissions. Marshall and I did, and
a lot of watching.
It was a lot. It was a lot of watching. Whoa. Yeah, but we had others, that were screening also, and so we then pass forward to our judges an X amount, per category that we could program, and then they rank those films. So we don't have an influence on the scoring of the films. We just make sure that what's being passed to our judges is acceptable
meets
for programming.
The criteria. Yeah. What's the purpose, two things. What's the purpose of a film festival, whether they exist, and couple that with the purpose of this film festival in particular?
Well, it's an outlet for filmmakers that don't have any distribution. They get to showcase their films that they've put a lot of time, money, energy, heart into, and we give them a format, a place to showcase them in front of an audience on a big screen. it may be the only time these filmmakers have their film shown on a big screen, with all the latest and how you view things, streaming and at home and all that. So that's one thing that we're able to do, is to give them that opportunity. And these are anything from big feature films to documentary features to documentary shorts, short films, music videos. And so you want to encourage those filmmakers to keep creating. And the more they do it, the better they get at it. And so there are films that come out of this festival that have, mainstream releases. And that's the idea, on a smaller scale from the Sundance Film Festival, let's say. But there are opportunities for these films to be seen, to be showcased, to be marketed, to be branded, get the filmmakers on TV, and then establish themselves as capable filmmakers.
Yeah. I would just add it helps with the word of mouth. So, having the background of being on a theatrical release team, using festivals as a springboard into your rollout campaign for theatrical release is really smart for filmmakers. We saw that last year when we had our opening night film as Waterman with the story of Duke Quanamoko. The director was Isaac Halasima, who I'd worked with on a previous project. But we rolled out at the festival, and then they had just a fantastic theater run, and they were in other festivals as well, like Hawaii just ate up that movie. It was a beautiful, beautiful documentary.
Now it's on PBS?
Yeah, I think it's streaming on PBS. But yeah, like that would be another point into why you would come to the festival is to have a goal in mind, and that's what we want to help filmmakers see is like, hey, you're running the festival circuit. Why? Like, what are you getting out of it? What's helping your project, move forward? Who are you meeting? And that's the other thing that we're bringing in some just amazing people that can collaborate, right? There's networking opportunities. There's just, I think, new faces, new energy. Like that's what we're really excited about too.
How's the quality of films? It's easier to make a film now because the equipment is more accessible. What's the quality like? You viewed a lot of films, so hopefully most of them are really good, but probably not all of them are as good as you wanted them to be.
Although I will say all the ones that we pressed forward are really good. There were some that you could tell were just dabbling in it, or just learning, and that's still important. And we still see, we see the vision of what they had. Marshall and I are not. Like we're definitely used to seeing a rough cut of a film before, so we can understand what a rough cut looks like versus the final project. I would say, for me at least, as we were watching them this year, the storylines, the creativity of the writing really was impressive.
I mean, you have to applaud anyone that can concept an idea and then get people together to help and then tell a story that makes sense, and taking it all through post-production, adding the music and all that. That's a feat in and of itself, and that needs to be recognized and applauded, And so that's another thing about those films too. I mean, the ones that didn't make it in still have merit.
Yes.
They just weren't a good fit for this festival.
And our timing, like if we had 4 more days, there were some others that we would have pressed forward because it wasn't that everything that we accepted everything that was good. No, we had to reject, I guess, some of the films that we still liked and that were still great quality, but it just didn't score high enough, on the others too.
Yeah. That makes sense. When I've attended the film festival, one thing I have noticed, it seems like there's a pretty strong community. People who know each other, kind of a networking event. Have you noticed that? I mean, obviously you've been involved with film here for a long time. Seems like there's a pretty good community of people who like to help each other work together.
It's like a class reunion.
It is. And there's like, what we're trying to do, like I said, Zion, gather together. What we have found, or what I've found, is there's kind of 2 different film groups in the state, at least in Utah. And you got the ones that are, doing things on their own, getting out there, fundraising, making, small budget films and creating great content. And then you've got the ones that are working on the big, union studio shows like, Yellowstone and High School Musical and things like that. So we're trying to bring that world in with the independent filmmaker world together at the festival. So we've invited a number of those crew members that work on those big budget union shows to come be part of the festival this year at our panel and workshop series.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. Well, as I said, as we're recording this, then the festival for this year will have passed, but we got to always look forward to 2024. Same kind of time period. Have you looked, obviously you plan way ahead.
Yes.
And 2024, same kind of schedule somewhere in the spring?
Yeah, there'll be a couple of things that we'll announce now because, it will have been announced by the time that this is showing. A few things. We're looking to expand and have a Monday through a Saturday festival. For those reasons that we talked about earlier, is that our submissions continue to increase, the quality of those films continue to increase, and we want to be able to provide, more content, for people to take in. The other thing that we are doing is we're introducing another category. So we are excited to announce that we'll have a screenwriting category.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that will be something new that we are doing.
Oh, and the table reads.
Yeah, it came about, there's some strategicness to this also. I don't know if anyone's been to a table read, and I was talking to someone the other day and they're like, what is a table read? So it's basically where you have a script and you have different actors that are just reading the parts to kind of see if the flow of the story is in sync, if there's any holes and things like that. I have had such an amazing time just to be able to be part of that creative process. And so we wanted to open that up. So this year at the festival, we have 4 scripts that are being read. So the writers and the directors are bringing in different, people to read each of those parts. But we're doing that right
in
before.
front of an audience.
Yeah.
So there'll be an
Yeah.
audience.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Get
So
some
they-
direct reaction.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So feedback, interaction, are they laughing when I thought that they would be laughing? Those type of things. So we're providing just this other, opportunity, again, through the whole process of, from writing to on the big screen. So those are some of the things that we'll be gearing up for 2024.
Yeah.
Well, she's going to run Monday through Saturday next year. I'm still going to work Wednesday through Saturday. So
Pick your hours,
it's a little
right?
too much for me.
Well, it's been a pleasure to talk with you, Marshall and Michelle Moore, the co-directors of the now ZIONS Indie Film Fest.
Yes.
So look forward to that and mark your calendar when it's coming up. It's a great experience. So thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
coming to be on
Thank
the show.
you.